Hi, I'm Jess.
And I'm Matt.
And I can't believe you haven't seen How to Train Your Dragon.
Or an animated guide to training really any pet that you have, I think.
I mean, that's probably fair.
We don't have any pets. Yeah, we don't have any pets yet, so we can't necessarily test that theory. Pet dragon. Can we get the SPCA on speed dial for a...
We will not have a pet dragon.
Okay, we will not. Welcome back to I Can't Believe You Haven't Seen with Jess and Matt. This is our 16th episode, first one of 2026.
Yeah, it's
New
wild.
Year.
It's
Sneaking up on almost a full 12 months of doing episodes.
Yeah, it's been a really fun time.
And
weird, and that's appropriate.
And weird, yeah. So in celebration for that, we are back on our own. It's just Jess and I after having some guests on our last episode.
Yeah, special thanks to Kim and Jason for last episode. It was a ball recording with them too.
That was a good time. And good to watch a movie that we'd both seen and love before. And in this one, it is back to Jess's choice.
Yeah, and I genuinely could not believe you hadn't seen How to Train Your Dragon. It is flummoxing to me how you hadn't seen it.
You and my brother both, I think, couldn't quite believe. My brother loves this movie.
Well, and that's the part that I'm always a little surprised by is when he and I are both like, yes, this is an excellent movie, and you're like, diddly dee potatoes, and I'm like, with the two of us, how did you avoid it? But it is what it is.
Yeah, and it's 16 years ago now, 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah, great. So. Let's do that thing where we count time and then I feel old. Great.
Yeah. So we've got a chance. This actually comes on the heels of the live action-ish How to Train Your Dragon upgrade thing that came out last year.
I don't love the live action anythings. I'm not a super big fan. Obviously, something like the live action Lion King is CGI lions.
Yeah.
So the dragons make sense.
I can't believe they were able to get real dragons to do the...
Yeah, they really trained those dragons. It's a weird time. But as is tradition, because Matt hadn't seen the movie, he will lead the conversation. But before we do that, I feel it important to give you a little bit of background. I also need to clarify here that this might be the first time I have picked a critically acclaimed movie for you to watch.
I don't know. Steel Magnolias.
Maybe. Yeah. That's fair.
My best friend's wedding was pretty okay with the critics. I think,
this one has Oscar noms. Which is not a thing I usually do.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Okay, so How to Train Your Dragon, or as our physical copy of it says on the spine, How to Train Your Dragon 1, which is bizarro.
Why?
I don't know. Because it really wants to. And later, when Matt puts together the stuff to put on the internet, he will take a photo of that and add it to the reel because I think it's hilarious. Anyway, How to Train Your Dragon was a 2010 American animated fantasy film directed by Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois. Was written by Sanders, DeBlois, and Will Davies, and is based on the 2003 novel by Cressida Cowell, which I love is based on a novel. Yeah. I haven't read the novel, full disclosure, so I don't know if this is one of those where it's better in the book, but I get the feeling it's probably not.
Yeah.
This one was a Dreamworks animation, which, as we discussed with a friend of ours yesterday, is no longer in existence, and this does come on the heels of Over the Hedge, which I loved, but is a weird movie from Dreamworks.
Dreamworks is still around, but this was at the time when they were still owned by Paramount.
Oh, there it is.
And they're independent now. They just operate as Dreamworks, not associated with another studio.
The movie industry's weird.
Yes.
So the film has the voices of, and this is a fun cast.
Yeah.
Jay Baruchel, Gerard Butler, Craig Ferguson, America Ferrera.
Yeah.
Jonah Hill, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Kristen Wiig, and T.J. Miller.
Yeah, this is a very, that era of SNL and Superbad coded movie. You can tell it's everybody's kind of just recently gotten famous either in movies or on SNL. And it's this is a murderer's row compared to where they are now.
Correct. In addition to that, because I saw it in the credits today for the first time and did not realize that's who it was,
yeah,
also includes David Tennant.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And I was like, oh, David Tennant, I forgot. And I did not forget. I had no idea. So,
yeah,
very cool. It's a heck of a cast.
Mm-hmm.
And the animation is wonderful. So, box office wise, it topped the North American box office as the week it opened.
Yeah.
43.7 million in its first weekend of release. It's grossed $217.6 million in North America, $277.3 in foreign countries, a worldwide total of $494.9 million.
It's very successful.
It's the 5th highest grossing animated film of 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Because apparently it came out in the same year as Toy Story 3, Shrek Forever After, Tangled, and Despicable Me.
Yeah.
Which, rough. That's a rough amount to be with. However, it got overwhelmingly excellent critical response.
Mm-hmm.
The Rotten Tomatoes aggregator reported that 99% of critics gave the film a positive review. So that's a big deal. Everybody who reviewed it, including Roger Ebert, were big fans. They called it swooping and soaring, was worth the price of a ticket, etc. However, it also, at the 83rd Academy Awards, so How to Train Your Dragon was nominated for Best Animated Feature and Best Original Score.
Yes.
Somewhere right now your brother is cheering about that one.
Yep.
And they were also, interestingly enough, nominated for a Golden Globe and 2 BAFTAs.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, given the amount of Scottish voice actors.
Yeah, I was like, which makes a lot of sense, but I love that happens. So, How to Train Your Dragon, big deal.
Big deal. Spawned multiple, not only sequels, but now also the first of what it looks like to be at least 2 live action and animated combo feature movies. So, yeah, it's pretty successful.
Seems to be a big deal.
Franchising. IP, movie making in 2026.
Well, I mean, at that point in 2010, but yes.
Yeah, well, starting and then, so.
Yes, that's kind of the intro to How to Train Your Dragon and the excellent voice cast and all of the accolades it got.
Yes.
And how much money it made.
Yeah, it's obviously, it doesn't stick around for 16 years with multiple sequels if it isn't a success and isn't making money. So
correct. Yeah.
That is quite good. Yeah.
So now it's the floor is yours, dear.
Floor is mine. Okay. And immediately you talked about the voice cast and how great the voice cast is. Very first thing that struck me in this entire movie, because I've seen many of his movies and his voice is very, very distinctive. We're starting with Canadian content.
CanCon!
Mr. Jay Baruchel, who is fantastic.
Also, like, his sarcasm.
Yes.
Is bar none one of the best deliveries in the world, I think. He's so funny.
He just as a person has the like charisma and delivery, and even if you just see him in a movie, just the physical presence of an awkward teenager who is not confident with themselves. Even now that he is much, much older, and even when he was doing this movie, he's much, much older than a teenager. But like that is his persona that he just encompasses in most of his roles.
Was the character of Hiccup drawn based on Jay Baruchel?
Hiccup. We'll get to Hiccup in a bit.
Sorry.
Yeah, so that was immediately, I was like, okay, this, for someone that knows Jay Baruchel's work. And at that point in time, like, he is a Canadian actor. He has been in a lot of movies, not just Canadian American movies. Like, he's been in a lot of different roles. And he is kind of like, he's a very good, what if you're watching a Rewatchables podcast, is what Bill Simmons would call a that guy. Like, he is, you may not know him by name unless you know him by name, but you'd look at him and go, oh yeah, that guy.
And I remember him from Popular Mechanics for Kids.
Yeah, he was a child actor. Like, he's been around forever and continues to do really fun work. He was, the last thing I saw him in would have been Blackberry, which was that like fictionalized version of the creation of the mobile devices that was really quite funny. We didn't watch that together, I guess. That may have been just me. No. You would really enjoy Blackberry. It was really fun.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, add it to the list. And so immediately, like, I'm like, okay, Jay Baruchel's doing this. This fits really well with the character of Hiccup, who, is very aptly named and is very much portrayed as the, like, okay, I am the son of a man that is the leader of this Viking village. And you're introduced to this with, like, a Hiccup's voiceover of living in a town full of Vikings. And so immediately you have the, like, okay, Vikings. You play on the stereotype, what everybody thinks of as the Vikings. You have the big burly Viking men and women adults that are immediately fighting off dragons, who are the quote-unquote the pests of their village. That's how it's portrayed. It's like, yeah, it's kind of boring, it's whatever. And the worst thing about it's probably the pests. And then you just see dragons picking up their sheep.
Yeah, I deeply love the opening. Like, it's really well done.
And love the, like, the derpy sheep. I don't know if it's because we were also have been playing Hades 2 recently.
And there's a lot of derpy sheep.
There's a lot of derpy sheep that Polyphemus the Cyclops is keeping. So maybe it's just I have that in my brain. But I'm
many nerdy crossovers happening for us right now.
Those sheep are really funny. Just like, do, whoop, scooped up by a dragon. Off they go. And just, off they are. Like, it's a really good, like, it's a good opening. It's a very, like, I mean, we're talking about a kid's movie, so it's a very cliched opening, but it's one that immediately you get placed into, like, okay, we're in a Viking village that is occasionally being overrun by dragons. What a fucking name for...
I mean, all of it's kind of what a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good opening.
Mm-hmm.
I laughed a little because it uses voiceover, which is not usually our favorite, but it makes sense in this case.
Yeah, for a kids movie, I think their voiceover is kind of a pretty standard, like, get you into the thing, especially if it's a book and you probably need a bit of context and backstory to something. So that makes perfect sense. Again, it's a pretty... This is not this is a pretty low stakes movie as far as narratives are concerned.
And yet, so good. Anyway, sorry, continue.
So it kind of, you do that, you're introduced, the dragons come, take away their sheep, take away the whatever else, and the people are fighting back against them, and Hiccup is the assistant to Gobber, aka Mr. Craig Ferguson, the once and forever king of late night television. He's still maybe the funniest late night TV show host. He genuinely just, and he never compromised with whatever he was doing. He's just like, I don't give a shit. I will be Craig Ferguson.
Again, more nerdy crossover happening here.
Yeah, good stuff. So he is the Craig Ferguson. Gobber is the blacksmith who has one prosthetic leg, one prosthetic hand that he uses to attach various weapons to fight off the dragons.
Honestly, efficiency.
Pretty great, yeah, pretty good stuff. And Hiccup is his assistant, and we find out that we're introduced to Stoic, who is the...
Stoic the Vast,
who is the leader, tribal leader, Viking leader of this village... Chief,
head of Burke, I guess. Yeah.
Big Cheese, CEO of this Viking village.
HVIC, head Viking in charge.
And you find out also that Stoic is Hiccup's dad. And Hiccup is kind of your stereotypical scrawny runt teenager who is not yet a full-blown Viking, whatever that means. So you kind of have we have our setup. This is great. The dragons are there and they fight them. Cool. We have our setup. We also have a very clear delineation of who the kids are and who the adults are, because as I've alluded to before, we have people like Craig Ferguson. We have people like Gerard Butler, who is Stoic, the voice of Stoic. We have
I mean,
David.
he's also stoic.
Yeah. We have David Tennant, who you don't really get introduced to immediately and sort of is just there.
Is a parent as well.
Is a parent. And all of the adults that are fighting the dragons are of Scottish descent in their accents. Sure, I guess. Because then you have the children, who none of them are of Scottish descent. In fact, you have, the aforementioned Jay Baruchel. You have Christopher Mintz plus McLovin.
I was like, McLovin.
At his finest. And because McLovin is there, you need Jonah Hill. So Jonah Hill's there too.
And important little, caveat on Jonah Hill and his recent not greatness.
Yeah.
But I just want to acknowledge it because it sucks, and I usually don't go back to stuff with people who aren't great. But...
And we can also throw Mr. T.J. Miller into that same category, who is also here as one of the voices of the children. And we have Kristen Wiig doing her darndest with not a typical Kristen Wiig accent, but something that's not her regular voice. And then you have America Ferrera, who is kind of fresh off, relatively, I guess, in 2010, fresh off a run of Ugly Betty, and going into, I'm trying to think, actually, until she was in Barbie a few years ago, I'm not sure I could name you a bunch of other movies that she had been in after Ugly Betty. So this is part of a transition going back and forth between that.
Oh, you missed all the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants movies?
I'm not sure how
I am genuinely upset, and we need to add that to the list. Yes, she is in Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Yeah.
Ugly Betty is 2006 to 2010, so it's right on the same. Mm-hmm. It's sort of early-ish in her career, because she kind of starts filmography in about 2002.
Yeah.
So, not super early, but also not super far
in.
It's
kind of that right in the middle.
Yeah.
Because Ugly Betty ran for quite a few seasons, I think.
4 years, 2006 to 2010.
Yeah, so it was pretty good. And so you have a very clear in-between of the parents are all very, very defined Scottish accents.
For fun.
And the children are just their voices. They are just I mean,
in fairness, the adults are also just their voices. They just pick Scottish adults.
They just pick Scottish adults. Although, Craig Ferguson very clearly is putting on more Scottish, which he can do.
Yeah.
But you have this very early, there is this difference between the adults and the children, which will play a bit of narrative point as the movie goes on. And is a nice little, if you're doing a kids movie, because part of the overall theme of this movie is very much this idea of traditions, and this is how we do these things, versus the way that the kids are being brought up and how some of them eventually come to see things, specifically the treatment of how they fight against the dragons. So there's this long, that is a big overarching theme. So it's a fun kind of trope to have these are the Scottish and these are the quote unquote not normal sounding people. Yeah. And it gives a pretty early delineation of they are there's going to be a difference in there, and eventually there is. So it's a nice little thing to start out with. Again, it's when you're making a movie for kids, you want to make things as clear without having to state all the obvious.
It's also a good bit of foreshadowing, right? The idea of the accent is tied to the traditionalists.
Yeah.
And I say accent, to us it's accent for a North American movie.
Yeah.
The Scottish accent is tied to the idea of tradition versus the North American accent is not. It's a good sort of foreshadow for kids and for adults.
Yeah.
Who can't figure out who's who in the zoo.
That's true. And
not that I ever had that problem.
No, and it's, Vikings would not have had Scottish accents, but
Rob's not, no.
It, rather than try and fit that as a nuance into a movie for kids, a Scottish accent, and this is also DreamWorks, which is not too many years removed at this point from however many Shreks had come out at that point.
Well, there was a Shrek that came out that year.
Yeah. So we already have probably had relationships with a lot of Scottish actors. So, okay, sure, we can do that. And I also have a note here about the Viking parents, the Scottish parents. I'm firmly in the belief that none of these Viking parents should be allowed to name children.
Well, there's a reason, right? Because he says that in the beginning.
Yeah.
That they gave them bad names on purpose because they believe it makes strong children.
Oh yeah, and again, there is, if you go through the parents' names too, and I don't have all of them as a list.
I do.
That is absolutely it. But when you are there to name your children, well, Hiccup for starters is
choice.
That's a choice. Fish legs, good stuff. Way to set your kid up for success in life. Snotlout.
Correct.
You have Tough Nut and Rough Nut, the two twins, brother sister, whatever it is. You have the only one that could be construed as a quote unquote normal name, Astrid. And I actually am now reminded of our friend on the X92.9 reels about, like, that's a name that you could see somebody naming their child and have it be pointed out on a census. As
sure. Huh. But, like, Astrid's not an unusual.
No, not at all. But that's the one, of all of the kids, Astrid is the most quote unquote, like, not hideously awful idea named child.
And since we're doing this, I have the whole list.
Yeah.
And that includes last names. So yes, no, you're not wrong. They clearly have gone out of their way to do it. Which is funny because they're all a bit of a rough and tumble ragtag team of kids. Yeah. Except Astrid seems to be the most competent of all of them. So is their name theory right? Probably not.
Well, and Astrid's competent, but she also is she's still rough and tumble. She is very...
Sure, but she's the most, I would argue, the most competent of the children, and therefore hilarious that she has the only normal name. Okay, we have Hiccup Horrendous, Haddock the Third, the awkward son of Stoic the Vast. We have Astrid Hofferson.
It just sounds like a northern Dakotan, Minnesotan name.
Did you know that Gobber's full name is Gobber the Belch? Which...
Did he belch in
the
movie?
No, I think that's related to blacksmithing, actually.
Okay.
Snotlout Jorgensen.
That's unfortunate.
Is that one, yes. Fish Legs Ingerman. The Rough Nut and Tough Nut, their last names are Thorsten.
Okay.
Spitelout Jorgensen is Snotlout's dad. That's David Tennant. The one female Viking adult that you see, Phlegma the Fierce.
Yeah.
Phlegma. One of the blonde bearded Vikings, his name's just Ack. A-C-K.
Why not, really?
And Hork the Haggard.
Hork
the Haggard.
Yeah. Yeah, I firmly will go with it. We maybe need to get a, I used to take the babysitting course when you were kids. I think maybe we need some child naming courses. Can we get them on some correspondence? Just a Zoom call, really, to get these Viking parents to be like, look,
this is a bad call.
This is a poor choice. However, that being said, we maybe also need to have a Zoom call for modern parents about how spelling their names unintentionally incorrectly is a bad idea.
Intentionally incorrectly.
But that's another...
That's not for the scope of this podcast.
This one, no. And it makes for... I actually, through the movie, I was just like, okay, America Ferrera, Jonah Hill, Jay Baruchel, TJ. Yeah. In my head, I'm like, right, and it's that kid. McLovin.
You kind of get the archetypes of who the kids are versus their names.
Yeah.
They're introduced all at once at the beginning, but then keeping up with them can be a little bit more challenging until the end. You sort of figure it out by the end, but yeah.
Yeah. And I did like the touch of McLovin being the one that they voice where the kid is doing Dungeons and Dragons roll +2 aggressiveness, +15 well done. That is very...
So well done.
Very, very well stereotypically cast. Love it.
Yeah, it was excellent. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, that's good times. Yeah, basically the premise they get going with in the movie is that in order to like pass down some of their traditions that mostly have to do with fighting off dragons, because that is the chief nuisance in the day-to-day of this Viking village, is that they need to train their children to fight the dragons. And they do crash course summer camp for fighting dragons that Gobber is the host of.
Yeah, I would pick the guy who has no arm and no leg.
I mean, yeah, it's probably the most useful. He knows all the weapons, at least.
He made them so they attach to his arm.
Yeah, he's probably the most qualified. Everybody else seems to be going far too aggro to... Anyhow, so the idea is that they bring the children to this arena, Thunderdome kind of thing.
Thunderdome's a good description.
And they sort of their training is not so much preparing them, it's just throwing them, out of the frying pan into the fire to battle dragons in a
literal fire.
Yeah. And to battle against a dragon with very, very little information and only occasional reading that most of the children seem to slough off because all they want to do is fight. And this is done as all of the parents are sort of off on sail trying to find the dragon's nests.
Yes.
In order to kind of get rid of them, cut them off at the source kind of thing. And that's been unsuccessful, and they eventually come back. But by the time
they've been trying to do that for 300 years.
Yeah, it's sort of the seasonal cycle of the Vikings. So before winter sets in, they're trying to do it one more time, and then Gobber's going to train the children. So off they go doing the thing. And the other sort of peripheral part of this is that nobody is listening to Hiccup, and he wants to try and he has a cannon that he's been developing in Gobber's blacksmith hut. And he is like, I want to use this thing. And nobody believes. It's like, no, this isn't a weapon. What are you doing? We don't want to capture the dragon. We want to slay the dragon. And so in the fight initially, he talks about all the different types of dragons, and some set themselves on fire to be more menacing. Some of them have sharp talons, all of them do different things. And then there's the one dragon, and I'm forgetting the name of it initially, but it's the one that is you can't see in the dark and is the fastest.
Night
Furies, that's right. And it is they are the most deadly because they cannot be seen. And Hiccup brings out his cannon against all the advice of his father and Gobber and everybody else, because he's told his entire life that he is a screw-up, which we'll get back to, I imagine. And he shoots his cannon off at what he thinks is the Night Fury, and thinks that he's hit it, and that it's gone down somewhere off on the island, even though nobody believes him, and he doesn't really know that it's actually happened. But he sets out afterwards, on his own, after his dragon slaying, fighting school time, to go see if he can find this Night Fury that he thinks he's trapped. And he finds it. It happens to be in a little lake crater type of thing. And he goes and is going to initially try and kill it and stab it and cut out its heart and take it to his father. And then it will show him that he's a man. My toxic masculinity will fit right in with the rest of these Vikings. And
why does he now have a southern? Nope.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
No.
And so he tries to do it, and he can't do it. Can't bring himself to do it. He is just not built to kill dragons. But he releases the dragon from the bindings of his little net, bolo net type of thing that he shot at him, and just off on his merry way. Dragon goes away, he goes away. Then he goes back and realizes that the dragon is still there, a day or two later, and it can't fly out of the crater because its tail has been sort of torn off, or something's gone wrong with it, probably when he shot it down.
The tail got injured when he got shot.
Yeah,
otherwise he was fine. There was no reason for him to be stuck there.
Yeah, so he realizes this, and kind of goes back because he feels this affinity for this dragon now, which nobody else in the village ever bothers to think twice. And he feels sorry for this dragon that can't fly properly and can't get out of the crater. Okay. Then he goes back home, and after doing some studying with all the reading, that I think he's the only one of the kids that actually...
No, Astrid said she's already done it.
She's already done it, so she's the keener. She is the pick-me girl, I guess, in this case.
I don't think that's... No,
She's the good student.
I was like, we're not calling her a pick-me girl.
No.
That's an unfair assessment of Astrid, who is academically inclined, good at fighting dragons, and the most competent of the bunch. That's not a pick-me girl.
No,
that's a strong female.
And when I think of, like... When I think of the term pick-me girl, I know the term that everybody else has it with. As a former high school teacher, I think of any of the kids that were the ones that were good students that would enjoy putting their hand up and giving the answer, like I did in Klein school when I was a kid.
Yes.
That is not, that's what I think of. It's like the kids that are there to be like, "Ooh, I know the answer. Ooh, pick me, I'll tell you the answer." And that's what I think of. I know culturally the pick-me girl is something very different than that.
Okay, this is going to be a fun sidebar that you feel free to cut out of this when you edit it. Do you know where pick-me girl comes from?
Comes from originally, no. I know that it, the concept and the definition of where it exists.
It comes from Grey's Anatomy. And it's Meredith Grey talking to Mick Dreamy. There's so many Micks in that. So Mick Dreamy, and I don't have a lot of context for the show because I've only watched bits, but I think she's trying to, I think at that point she finds out that he's married.
Okay.
And she says, "Pick me, choose me, love me."
Okay.
Because she's like, "But you should pick me, it should be me."
Good writing.
Listen. Great. There are going to be people who listen to this and are like, fuck all y'all and your Grey's Anatomy opinions, but I'm not a fan. However, really funny as a sidebar, Ellen Pompeo has teenagers now. And she's like, I've heard my daughter say, "Oh, she's such a pick-me," and I'm like, you have no idea. So that's where it's from originally, and that's why it has the context it has.
There you go.
Because honestly, as a woman, if he's not picking you already, don't beg for it. But again, this is also 20 plus years ago, I think, at this point.
That's fair. Yeah. Anyways, there's my own bias showing of being a teacher rather than a Grey's Anatomy fan. So.
I'm not biased. You're just bad at pop culture sometimes.
That's why I married you.
Correct. So I know what you're saying. Astrid is the strongest of the kids. She is not a pick-me.
No, she's
of what we're just discussing.
But she's clearly she is already the strongest of the fighters and warriors amongst all of the kids that are their age, and she already has she's quote unquote done her homework. She knows what it is going to take to be a good Viking, and she wants to be a good Viking. Yeah. And so anytime that they are battling the dragons, usually she's the one that lasts the longest, or close to. So that's where sort of she lives within everything. But we also have Hiccup, who
is reading now.
And I think probably always is reading, and is more like he's doing a little bit of drawing and things like this. And he is doing what I'm essentially going to call the quote-unquote nightmare cramming for an exam that I think if anybody's been in any kind of post-secondary college situation, everybody will be probably a little bit familiar with. I had a few flashbacks in there where I'm just like, oh, reading all this information, it's all blending together, and I probably should have started studying a little bit earlier than this, and oh no, what have I done?
Couldn't be me. Never me. Not I.
Never that. No. So there's a little bit of the studying nightmares that I'm sure a few people will resonate with. But we get to the Night Fury of all of the dragon types that he's reading about. And there's all this, it's this, they have blind spots, they're this big, they do this. You get to the Night Fury and there's no information at all. It's like the dinosaurs as a kid that you knew nothing about, but they made a drawing of because they had a fossil once.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's essentially the same.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, actually, I think I want to give some shout-outs to the nerd child whose name has now escaped me despite having had the list, because I think he's probably studied it as well. Fish Legs would have had to have studied it because there's no way he has that stuff in his brain otherwise.
No.
However, one of the things that happens when he's reading that, and yes, all the info starts, but there's one sentence that gets said over and over and over.
Yeah. Kill, kill, kill.
Extremely dangerous, kill on sight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's over and over. You get the same. It's the same thing, basically. They are a dragon. Kill all the dragons. Rinse, repeat.
Yeah, it's just interesting to hear that thing. And then when you get to the Night Fury, that's not the line.
No.
Because nobody, as far as they're concerned, nobody has ever seen a Night Fury and come back alive.
Yeah. If you see them, you're already dead.
Basically. That's why there's no info, there's no picture, there's no nothing.
Yeah. So, when he has come across the dragon that he has felled with his bolo cannon net contraption, it is basically all black, and it's implied that this is a Night Fury. Okay, cool.
I mean, it's not implied, it's straight up said it's a Night Fury.
Yeah. But he, gradually, as he sees the Night Fury, draws a diagram of it, approximately, and it shows the tail, and that's where he realizes as he's drawing it that half of the tail fins,
I think that's a good way of putting it,
are missing, damaged, hurt, not there anymore. So he kind of goes, oh, okay, and sees that the dragon's having struggles flying, can't get up. Okay, the tail is wrong. So he goes home, and because he has access to the Gobber's blacksmith area, manufactures and jerry-rigs himself a wing that he can attach with a belt loop and some leather and all of the finest Viking materials that can be found. And basically is now working on befriending the dragon and getting close enough to the tail that he can distract the dragon with a sack full of fish, some of which are eels, which are not Night Fury's favorite.
They don't seem to be anybody's
not
favorite.
Any dragon's favorite. And so
keep that in mind for when you face dragons.
Yeah. And, is preoccupying the dragon with fish and attaches this thing to the tail. Okay. That's going to help. Except it doesn't. It's there, but it is the dragon can't operate this newfound tail fin. Okay.
It's a prosthesis.
It's a
call
prosthesis,
it what it is.
Yeah. It's not as if it's just like, oh, I just walk on this prosthetic leg because I know how to walk already. Like, the dragon cannot control with its own dragon nervous system how to make this tail.
They hadn't yet mapped out the dragon nervous system in order to have it attached. Yeah.
So Hiccup goes, okay, the next problem with this is I need to figure out a way to maneuver this, and he's not going to be able to do it, so I have to do it. So I got to have a saddle to ride the dragon, so I'm going to do this, and I can do this, and it's out of control. So I go back another night and have a control with a cheat sheet as to how this is steer left, this is steer right. So the thing that dawns into my mind, and as I watch the rest of the movie, I'm like, I think this is actually correct. Is this movie deeply a celebration of university researchers? Because
I think this movie might be a celebration of researchers, not university specific.
Oh yeah, but this is your stereotypical, we have no information about this. And so Hiccup is the only person that gives enough of a shit to deep dive into this. This is very much the I am starting my own wing within the arts department of this university to research this niche thing. And 20 years later, we are the primary research facility for this thing. And it is now people from around the world are applying here because we do this one thing really well.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Yeah.
It's a little like this is, a little bit inside baseball for the two of us. We currently live in Alberta, and there is a very, very well-known dinosaur museum in a small town in Alberta, north of where we live. And the Royal Tyrrell Museum is known worldwide as being not only one of the primary research centers for paleontology, it's where a lot of universities will send their students to like research, because there's a huge deposit of dinosaur fossils and bones that are found in this area. And like the university paleontology programs now are like hitching their wagon to this museum and are like, hey, we now have this great program because dinosaur fossils were discovered, so a few of us went down, and now it's such a big deal that we are the primary research
Well, and
facility.
dragons and dinosaurs are basically the same.
Pretty much, yeah.
Fun sidebar, because I love popular culture. Apparently in a recent episode of The Pit,
Yeah.
Head Smashed in Buffalo Jump was also referenced.
Oh, interesting.
So that's fun.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's
Alberta specific.
Alberta
here.
specific. Again, for those that aren't aware, it's an area that's like a provincial or national, like,
It's
historical.
It's a UNESCO site, is it not?
I think it's UNESCO now, but like it's been around for decades and decades and decades as an area that was primarily used by First Nations tribes for generations, where they would hunt buffalo and basically run them off of a cliff along this part of the prairie, and just use the geography of what was there to run them down the cliff and be able to hunt them, more efficiently. It's I haven't been there in a few years now. It's a pretty incredible site. Like, they do a lot of great historical stuff and have guided tours. Like, it's pretty awesome.
Things we've learned today.
Things
but in
we
any
learned.
event.
In my mind, I'm like, you having been someone that did a master's degree, I did not.
Yes.
And you will be familiar with, okay, I am deep diving on a very specific topic to get my master's or my PhD, and then like using that to either be a professor that teaches or like a researcher that just goes absolutely into the weeds about one very specific topic, and often discovers great new things, or like you'll have universities that become really known for something that was coming from like this great bit of research that happened. And in my head, I'm like, this is like the Viking version of being a university researcher.
I think this movie, one of what I would argue is maybe a central theme in this movie.
Yes.
Is nature versus nurture, science versus tradition, right? So you talked about tradition. This is the science side of it.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that the way that it can still apply. That sort of argument applies to so many things that we do now. Yes, there is a nerdy researcher somewhere who's diving into the aerodynamics of a dragon's tail for sure.
Yeah.
But the idea of science and like new wave versus like tradition and the way we always do it. So yeah,
and I just kind of love that he's literally a lot of the times using what's the approximation of a scientific method of, here's the problem, how do we solve it? Okay, we test it. Okay, we do this. Like, it's not just I'll just invent a flying machine that like, it's like, no, okay, I'll do this.
Oh yeah,
I'll try this. Okay, this could be a little bit better. Like, I'll refine it. It's just this is kind of lovely.
Yeah, it's fun to watch.
And nobody else in the Viking village is really like what they're passing down as far as fighting against the dragons is all passed from people. Like, it's the oral tradition versus more of a informational, reading up, doing research, revamping, revising what we know as far as that type of thing. And it's a fun little like addition to some other things going on in the movie, where there's a line that I think Astrid says it at one point when they're in dragon school. And she's like, we need to... something along the lines of being ready to take over our parents' war.
I have it because it's one of my favorite lines. Our parents' war is about to become ours. You need to decide which side you're on.
Yeah. And that's it's a very succinct way of talking about that idea of tradition. This is the way we've always done it. We need to know this in order to carry on the tradition. We don't need to understand any other part of it. It's just we are being attacked and thus we fight, as opposed to like thinking, why are they being attacked? Which is what Hiccup is coming at the problem with.
Well, and he's not initially, right? He kind of is forced into coming at the problem that way.
Yeah.
Because he was going to kill the Fury and be like, woohoo, I did it. Yeah, here's a heart. And instead is like, oh, you have feelings as well. So there's a little bit of humanity there, which is interesting. But yeah, I think our parents' war is about to become ours. Sorry, it's Figure Out What Side You're On.
Yeah.
Is so well done because it states a lot about the movie.
Yep. And
a lot about war in general, right?
And I think even further than that, it talks a lot about just culture and different places. Yeah. Like you know, if you're someone that lives in a small town, you and I both came from small mining towns.
Yep.
Small mining towns a lot of time have their quote unquote tradition of the town is you grow up in the small town, you graduate from high school, and you get a job in the mine that continues to make the town thrive.
Or it was at one point anyway.
Yeah, and provide money for the people to get married and have children who will eventually go to work in the mine, and the cycle will forever remain unbroken. So it's like there's culture, there's war, there's religion, there's a lot of things that follow that same idea of the cycle will continue forevermore without questioning.
Yeah, there's no interrogation of why we do what we do. And listen, I'm about to apply this to work, which is super fun for us. But that's one thing that has always driven me nuts is we've always done it this way. And I know if my boss is listening, I know she hates that too. It's one of the things that, like, right now on what I describe, shout out to the supervisor of my team.
I know she's listening.
I'm sure she's listening right now. What we describe in my office as the murder board, which is a giant whiteboard I have that I once drew out. We were mapping something out, and it looks like I was trying to solve a murder. Yeah. Thus the murder board. But on there right now, our theme for Q1 of this year is don't leave it to chance. It doesn't happen by chance. It happens by change. And, like, do it right now. So, yeah, it's, I hate the idea of, like, well, we've always done it this way. But if you've ever spoken to me for more than 5 minutes, or honestly, if you've listened to any part of this podcast, you know that's a pretty obvious bit about me. Yeah. I'm not saying change things for the sake of change, but that you don't have to hold on to the old ways of doing it either. Yeah. Just because it's how we've always done it drives me nuts. I hate that line.
And that's very much like it is the genesis of what goes on in the rest of this movie with Hiccup, you know, befriending the Night Fury, which he gives the name of Toothless, because it has no teeth until it comes to eat, and then the teeth come like Wolverine's claws.
Otherwise, it's just a gummy little smile.
Yeah. And he basically is befriending this dragon and is riding the dragon, training the dragon.
Weird. It's like it's the movie.
What a title for a movie. It's like watching Hundreds of Beavers and not realizing why it was called that until it explicitly calls it out in the movie. And he's, like, learning little things as he's going along about, like, oh, the dragons don't like eels. So when he goes back with the rest of the kids and is training to fight them, he doesn't end up fighting them. He ends up, like, making them back off because he has a smoked eel. Yeah. And he's like, oh, no, another dragon. Okay, knowledge. I'm going to use that to my advantage. And then the ones where he's like, oh, I am petting Toothless, and gave him a scratch behind the ear under the neck, and he just, like, flopped down like a dog because he loves it. Then he did that in the training. It's, he incapacitated the dragon. He's like, no, the dragon wanted a scratch.
Yeah, I just gave a little scratch.
So he's, like, using all of this knowledge that he's gaining to be like, we don't have to kill the dragons.
Can I tell you my favorite one of those?
Which one?
The light. Like a cat.
The laser, like the laser pointer. Yeah,
but it's just reflecting the light and distracting them till they're gone. Yeah. It is my favorite of the bunch because really, you said this is like a pet. The dragon is part dog, part cat, obviously dragon, but
part horse with the, like, petting the nose type of, like, that's
it's many animals.
But animals.
The cat part of that was my favorite.
That's pretty funny. Yep. But yeah, he is now, like, showing clearly that he is the most capable of all the kids, but he's just understanding the dragon as opposed to fighting the dragon, and that is where, like, then all of the adults come back from the unsuccessful trip out on the Viking ships to find the dragon nest, and
it's a Viking longship. Sorry.
Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday. And so everybody comes back, and it's like the whole town has done a 180 on Hiccup, because holy shit do they treat him badly for pretty much every other part of his life. Like, he is the redheaded stepchild of that, which in a Viking area is probably not a good metaphor, because there's probably a lot of redheads in the Nordic.
I was like, bad call, but yeah.
Is treated as the outcast and the problem, and partly it's because his father, the leader of the village, also will tell everyone within earshot what a screw up his son is.
Oh, listen, Stoic the Vast is a giant piece of shit as a dad.
And a stereotypical giant piece of shit.
Oh, straight up. Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts. We'll come back to that.
Oh, yeah. So, anyways, everybody comes back, and they're like, oh, Hiccup is the leader in the clubhouse to be the one to slay the dragon at the end of the training, which is the prize you're given. If you are the best, you get to be the one to kill a dragon in front of everyone.
And the elder picks the winner.
Yeah, and so they basically then, once everyone's back, his dad starts treating him much better. He does the thing about, like, we finally have something to talk about.
I hate that line so much.
Like, oh boy, there's some parenting 101. So we get the Viking parents in for naming children and just general parenting courses. I feel like there's a whole learning series. We could get some LinkedIn learning for Viking, Viked-in learning, and just get them some parenting. That might have been able to avoid this whole situation, really, or not. Then we wouldn't have had the movie, I guess.
I know I brought up work, but did you have to bring up LinkedIn?
Viked-in.
It started with, anyway.
Had to start somewhere. Chisel it on the stone. Anyway, so like there's very clearly he is now accepted. Hiccup doesn't necessarily love it. Like, he still doesn't feel like he's fitting in. He's just like, oh, I just finally get everybody off my back.
Well, and I think Hiccup is uncomfortable because he's managed to figure it out, but no one will listen to him.
Yeah, and he knows that.
Because no one listened to him in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he's finally got people listening to him, it's for something they think he's doing, but he's not, right?
Yeah.
So I think he feels like a fraud.
Yeah, so he's got all this knowledge, and he, he kind of ends up showing that he can do all of this and masking it, and then he eventually is like, okay, well, I'm the one that's gonna have to kill the dragon, and I'm just gonna not do it and show everyone you don't have to. Like, I'm gonna change the world.
What a poor plan.
Poor plan. He does get a little bit of encouragement from Astrid, because she's getting really annoyed with him that he's so good at this. And she's like, no, I'm the one that's good at this.
Yeah, her freak out is the meltdown of every high-performing female I've ever known.
Yeah, it is I almost made a reference to a movie you haven't seen, and I have on the list for this podcast, so I won't say it. But there is a Reese Witherspoon role in a movie that I want to do for this.
I already know what movie it is, because we've talked about it at length. Yeah,
it is that kind of thing. Like, it is the Annie from Community freakout.
Yeah, it's every overachieving woman I've ever known, either fictionally or in person, and I include myself in this, who has been like, what the fuck? How dare you? I put in all this effort and I'm so good. Screaming goat rage.
Yeah. So she follows Hiccup as he's been like doing these random trips to go
check on Toothless,
feed him fish, ride around, make sure that he's
building his tail up, etc.
And so Astrid follows and sees Toothless, freaks out because he's a dragon. This is a night fury, and gradually he's like, no, that it's okay. And she's young and more impressionable and open to ideas about these wild things like making friends with dragons, apparently.
He takes her on a ride. It's I can show you the world.
Yes, so there is a very blatant Aladdin magic carpet ride scene in this.
can show you the world.
It's basically just missing the song, and that's it.
I'm so very sorry to every listener who had just had to hear me sing that. But
yeah, so it is, you know, this is a movie that is not reinventing the children's movie wheel, and if you're gonna if you're gonna pull things into your movie, if you're pulling from Aladdin, you could do worse.
Yeah, you
most
could pull
definitely.
from The Little Mermaid.
You could do that.
I know how you feel about that movie.
Boy,
anyway,
let's not get into that. So he takes her on this like flying ride with Toothless, that she's kind of like, oh, okay, I understand now. That yes, you have trained him. He is friendly. She gives him the pets. She's now having teenage girl crush feelings for Hiccup. Okay. And in the middle of this, then suddenly the other dragons see the Nightwing or the Night Fury, and they they suddenly surround him, and they're flying somewhere, and they're flying into the Silent Hill fog, which you come to know is where the dragon's nest is. And they all go in there, and Toothless is panicking just as much. He's like, what the hell's going on? I don't remember what this is. And it's like, I can't get away. They'll come after me. And so they end up in the dragon's nest with all the other dragons, and they discover that it's kind of like a beehive, and there is a quote-unquote queen bee dragon that they're feeding everything that they steal from the Viking village, all the sheep, the poor sheep and fish. They all are going to the big daddy dragon, big mommy dragon, whatever. I don't want to gender the dragon. It's a big dragon, the dragon man.
I'm surprised you've lasted until now making that reference.
True. Yeah, no strong bad references from here on out, I guess.
Oh no, I was going to use that at the end, but it's fine.
So they discover or they see the nest. They don't necessarily know where it is, but they get there, and then they escape because the big dragon smells human blood, like it's a fictional Aesop's fable giant. Fee-fi fo-fum style, and they escape before they can get eaten, and off they go. So then he is trying to not slay the dragon and show all of the people in the Viking village that are watching him that this is okay. You can pet the dragon. You can do this. Then suddenly Stoic is angry at Hiccup because what are you? You can't befriend the dragon. They kill us and take our sheep. So then he basically is like, no, screw this. I'm going to go and kill this dragon in front of everybody, which agitates the dragon, as you might imagine. And then total anarchy. And as this is happening, Toothless, who is now permanently bonded to Hiccup because he is the puppy, and he knows his owner is in trouble. So it flies off and, from his nest into the village, and is going to help stop the other dragon from killing Hiccup, which he does, and everybody else freaks out because they're like, oh my god, it's a Night Fury. The tradition, kill it with fire, whatever else. And then basically it's just setting the course of where
kill it with fire.
They capture Toothless, and they're going to make Toothless lead them to the dragon's nest, which has come out with all of this. Incidentally, before I go on, I've mentioned Toothless a whole bunch.
Yeah, it's like we've had a lot of plot summary.
Summary.
Where are we going?
I think I realized pretty early on when you meet Toothless, this is how you make a movie franchise for children when there are animals of some kind involved. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Make them puppies.
I mean, we've already discussed Toothless is a lot puppy, but there's a lot of other pets as well.
If you make them cute and have little anachronisms and actions that cute animals do, you have a hit, and you will make $1 billion with your
Well, it wasn't
franchise.
$1 billion. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
I'm thinking in
franchise-wise.
Franchise. I'm sure they sold Toothless plushies everywhere. Yeah, this is cute dragon pose in all way, shape, 100%. Or form.
Well, and I will say one of the things I've always appreciated about this movie when it comes to the animation is how well they animate Toothless's expressions, and frankly all of the dragons, that like those eyes are very expressive, and it's used to do it does a lot of the emotional heavy lifting for Toothless as well.
Yes.
But yeah, he's adorable.
Yeah.
I love Toothless.
Yeah, Toothless
I want a Toothless.
It also is like not only the facial expressions, there is also a bunch of the animated bits where like Toothless is crawling up to go to sleep and does the like once over, like once or twice, like a cat or a dog would do.
The spin around, but like he sets the fire as he's spinning. Yeah, it's great.
And then would lay down, and it looks exactly like a dog or a cat or whatever. It reminds me very much of, so there's a video game from a number of years ago now, and it actually would maybe have been relatively close to the time that this movie came out. Called The Last Guardian. And The Last Guardian, if anybody's played it, they'll know what I'm talking about, but it basically involves a very How to Train Your Dragon-like relationship between a young boy and a mythical creature that is like, has the head of a cat and like the body of like a lion or a jaguar or something, and also feathers and wings. It's based on very clearly like several mythological beasts. But the idea is that you go from place to place with this creature that you have kind of tamed and sometimes ride, or you use it to like fling you over a wall or whatever. And the animated bits of this character, which is named Trico, is very much like, oh, you watched like a prowling lion to do this, or you watched a cat like licking itself.
Yeah, it's very, this animation really captures.
Yeah. Does real good with
animal movements, I think. Yeah.
So yeah, I think if you want kids to be interested in your stuff, make it like a cute animal. I'm thinking of like Grogu, Baby Yoda. Just make it somehow cute.
I mean, kids and Jess.
Kids and Jess. And probably my brother. And most people, real talk.
Your wife is distracted by adorable things, as we know.
Yeah.
My staff will tell you I will stop meetings for babies, puppies, and kittens.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you want Jess to not ever be productive for the rest of her life, give her a pet otter.
Or penguin.
Penguin.
Anyway, unrelated to that.
Yeah. This is, I think, there's probably a bit of a kernel of truth as to why this has 5 or 6 movies out now, and it's probably that the dragons look like cute pets.
Well, and I think you're onto something here, because it's not just Toothless who does it. Like, the expressions on the other dragons are hilarious, but there's that one scene where the little dragon comes up trying to get food and Toothless doesn't feed him. Yeah. Because, fuck you, these are my fish that I didn't have to get. Yeah. And so Hiccup gives a small fish to the small dragon, and the dragon comes and curls up underneath.
Immediately, yeah.
Like a cat, comes in, when cats decide they feel like curling up under your hand. Yeah. So, yeah, it's very pet-like in their mannerisms, and I like it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is some good stuff there. So... Then, obviously, as I mentioned, talking plot-wise, they've captured poor Toothless, shackled him up, and they put him on a ship because Toothless will be able to help point them in the direction of the nest. Probably. Listen, Stoic doesn't have a good plan here, and I think that's even Gobber points that out to him at one point.
Gobber is the angel on Stoic's shoulder, and Stoic is not listening. But no, yes, Gobber's
Stoic's a bit of his own devil.
I really enjoy Gobber's so some of the men are asking, what's the plan? What's... I'm not. I know you have a plan. You always have a plan. But some of the men have questions. Yeah. And you're like, poor Gobber's trying so hard to be like, don't want to piss you off, boss, but what the fuck?
Asking for a friend.
Yeah. Me, I'm the friend.
Yeah. So they go on this quest. They stumble upon the area they'd been to before, and then in an actually kind of a fun little oh, that's a nifty little idea of having the everybody being quiet, and then having Toothless listen, and whatever way his head is facing, that's where they steer the ship. I'm like, okay, there's something in Stoic that is not completely stupid, and which is why his son has this idea. He's like, okay, you're a moron, but there's something in there that's spatial awareness enough to be like, yeah, this is why he's probably the leader, I guess. Sure. Anyway, so they end up at the dragon's nest, and they catapult the side of the mountain and piss off the big grand dragon.
Yeah, they trebuchet themselves a hole in the side of a mountain. And, may I, in relatively quick order, why are the mountain walls so thin?
We got some structural engineering friends that have a few questions for that.
I have a few questions, and I can't build shit. Yes, my team, I don't know what a bridge looks like. Fun sidebar. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not a
so,
fan.
anyways, the continued poor planning on Stoic's part. Anyways, intercut with this is the idea that all the kids are still back at home because all the parents have left them to go fight the dragons.
Not all of them, but yeah.
And basically they now have gone like, okay, Astrid is fully on board with the idea that you can train the dragon. The dragons are not our enemies. And she rounds up the kids who they've done the training with and easily hiccups like, how did you think I was able to do all this stuff? Let me show you. So they free the dragons that are being kept for the training, and immediately he's just like, they're kitties, pet them. Yeah. And they're like, oh, cool. And so then he just randomly is like, now ride them, bitches, and off they go. Be like, oh, okay, there's just enough. And hilariously, it's like, oh, there's just the perfect amount of dragons, even the two-headed one that the twins can ride. And
it's a
perfect.
Kids movie.
Yeah, you love it. So they are like, right, we can ride these dragons. Our parents are all gonna die. We need to go save them. So
parents are so dumb.
Parents are the worst. So they go there, and before the kids can get there to actually save them, Stoic goes in with the worst plan this fucking side of Jack Bauer in 24.
Which is saying something. Oh boy.
Like, just, I am relatively certain that there is no real person in the world that would do the shit Jack Bauer tries to do in 24.
And here we are with Stoic the Vast pulling similarly exciting plans.
Yeah, if you're interested, if you ever, I didn't watch a bunch of 24, but if you know 24 or just interested in watching something that's kind of funny and also quite nerdy, there is a really great person that produces a lot of YouTube videos for a YouTube channel called Secret Base, a guy named John Boyce, and he has a series that he calls Pretty Good, which are sort of a like storytelling / slightly analytical way of looking at various stories, sports stories, historical, whatever's cultural things. He has one about the show 24 and specifically about Jack Bauer called I Wish Everyone Else Were Dead. And if you want to look, like, if you are interested, look it up on YouTube. It's hilarious. But basically, John Boyce comes to the conclusion that Jack Bauer kills and shoots so many people in the course of however many seasons of 24 that it's like, he has a moment, I guess, where he's like, I'm about to kill myself, but instead I'm going to go on a rampage and shoot at least 36 terrorists. And it's like, he doesn't say, I wish I were dead. He says, no, I wish everyone else were dead. And this is Stoic's plan. He's just like, I will kill all the dragons single-handedly. No plan required.
Well, and listen, one of the funniest moments in the movie happens in this scene, for me anyway, when they blow a hole in the side of the mountain.
Yeah.
All the dragons leave,
yeah.
and they're like, we did it!
We're free!
You did what? Because you just released them. You didn't do anything. They're gonna keep coming and eating your sheep.
Yeah.
Guys.
And I mean, real talk, those dragons are just sick of getting fish for the big head dragon.
Oh, 100%.
So they're just like, we're free, get away.
No, I know, but like the humans celebrating, I'm like, no one's thinking, oh, we just released, we Pandora's boxed this one.
It was just that easy.
They were Pandora, and what was left at the bottom was the scary fucker, the Big Daddy.
The one that's coming to get all of y'all, that is like 2,500 times the size of all the other dragons. And
Yes.
Anyways, it's the whale. It's the white whale that Ahab didn't actually want to try and get. So they have no hope in fighting against this big dragon so much as they're trying. And right on time, the kids and the flying dragons show up. Perfect. They are then...
Right on time, the kids and the flying dragons show up.
Excellent. So they are going around, and all the kids are riding the dragons, fighting against the big one. in maybe the funniest bit, like silent bit in the whole movie, is that the kids are flying on these dragons and Stoic looking up at all of them on these saddles riding the dragons, like silently mouths, what the, and you know the next word is fuck.
Yeah, but it cuts away from him.
It's like when you watch a sports telecast and like a coach isn't mic'd up and you can tell what they're saying and they're swearing.
They're going, what the fuck was that? Yeah.
Perfect timing. And like, okay, that's really funny. And then they, of course, they're fighting back the dragons. Stoic realizes, he's like, oh, they were telling the truth. My son is actually
the dragon
whisperer. Okay, sure. So they, then they get down there. They eventually get Toothless free, fight the dragons. Off they go. Happily ever after. There's all the other stuff with it. And it again, there's the nice father-son moment about dad going, wow, I'm a big, huge, dumb idiot, and my son he thinks he's dead because him and Toothless crash, and Toothless saves him, and now we're just living in a utopia where we have dragons as pets now.
Except Hiccup wakes up without a foot.
Without a foot, but that's okay, because he works for Gobber, and Craig Ferguson fixes him up.
It's got him.
The hero.
Got him saved.
The hero we need. And now he qualifies for the Viking team for the Paralympics, so it's all good.
Oh, Jesus.
The Olympics are about to happen in real time, so we're looking forward to watching both the winter and the Winter Paralympics.
Yes, so. Everybody get prepared for that version of the podcast. I'm just kidding.
We might hear a reference in our next.
We'll have to pause the podcast so we can talk about the Olympics. Yeah. Anyhow.
So that wraps up the movie part of kind of whatever there is. Then it has a nice little wrap up. It doesn't, and I will say this about this movie as a kids movie, as a animated movie, a lot of times those movies are not necessarily given like a wonderful set of nuance in their story. And this movie it doesn't, but it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't suffer for lack of nuance.
It doesn't. And it's full credit to this movie. Like it's written very smartly in that it kind of has this central theme of, Hiccup is the greatest Viking university researcher of all time. And it kind of, but like it has that as a through line, and it doesn't really deviate. And it's like, everybody doesn't believe you. And it's just like, well, yeah, everybody used to think the earth was flat too, kind of thing.
Probably
and it's just like, some people do. Don't ask B.O.B. about that.
Yeah, talk to Kyrie Irving.
Yeah. Neither of them are listening, thankfully. So, the themes of it are, pretty clearly stated, and it sticks to it and doesn't put in a lot of weird, plot contrivances for whatever. It's just like, no, it's clearly a very well thought out story.
It's a tightly written movie.
It is, and I'd be interested with the novel to see if it was one of those that was just it is also very tightly written, or if there was a lot of other things that they didn't put in the movie and the screenwriting did really well with tightening it up.
Honestly,
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
But the story's really, really well done with that. You've alluded to this before, the animation's really good.
Yes.
And not a shock to anybody that's seen modern animated movies. Most of them look pretty decent. Not all of them look quite this good. And I kind of pulled up. We actually had a conversation with a friend of ours last night about, we mentioned we were watching this movie for the next episode. And he's a big fan of animated movies and has watched a bunch. And we were talking a little bit about DreamWorks movies. And not all DreamWorks movies necessarily have been massively successful for various reasons.
Yeah,
And some of it is I looked up a little bit. I'm like, okay, I need to do a little bit of looking back with this on DreamWorks movies, because DreamWorks movies have been around forever. And the late 90s was when they started making full length movies. And they have a lot of movies that I would say either weren't maybe that great, or don't really work, or aren't movies that anybody talks about as having any memory of, or hasn't had a big legacy of.
Okay.
The first movie they ever did was doomed from the start because it was Ants, coming out the same year as A Bug's Life. And A Bug's Life is
far and away the better.
Far and away better. Yeah. Probably potentially unpopular opinion. It may be one of my favorite, maybe 5 Pixar movies ever.
Well, it's Bug's your Life opinion, is great. So that's, you're allowed to have that.
A Bug's Life is awesome, and Ants is just far inferior by comparison.
And you know what? Ants, I think, from what I remember, and it's been a long time, would maybe have done better had it not come out the same year as A Bug's Life.
Probably, because it's a very different movie.
Timing-wise.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. Very, very different movie, and, like, way less cutesy. Like, Bug's Life is really adorably animated. Ants is meant to be very angular, like, it's all about the ants being at war.
Yes.
And it, like, is a very different, apples to apples in the same year. That probably did that movie in for sure. But even as a case, like, I watched it a long time ago. I could not tell you much of anything that went on in that movie.
Now, to be completely honest with you, I couldn't tell you shit about A Bug's Life either.
Yeah. See, and A Bug's Life, I maybe have a different, there's a little bit of a different part of that, because part of A Bug's Life is based on a movie I love called The Seven Samurai and like The Magnificent Seven. So there's a little bit of the like journey they go on that are like, right. Anyways.
Back to Dreamworks.
They kind of go in like The Prince of Egypt, The Road to El Dorado.
I forgot that was Dreamworks movies. Yeah.
Chicken Run, which I do remember.
Chicken Run.
Joseph, King of Dreams.
Same sort of family as Prince of Egypt, El Dorado, and Prince of Egypt,
and then Shrek, obviously, is probably the single biggest DreamWorks thing that DreamWorks has ever done, and everybody knows Shrek. And Shrek is still continuing. I think there's a new Shrek coming out this year.
Yeah, let's not talk about it.
Yeah, that's wild. And even, like, Shrek is really fun, and Shrek is relatively timeless because it talks about a lot of the fairy tales that it's based on, and there's a few pop culture-y things that maybe are lost to time, but like for the most part it's drawing on archetypes everybody knows, so it was pretty successful. Scottish accent, shout out Mike Myers, more Canadian content in this discussion. And then you've got like Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron.
Oh, I forgot about that movie.
Yeah. You've got Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, which I forgot they made.
So did I.
Shrek 2, because why stop at 1? Shark Tale, which is pretty universally god-awful from anything that I can recall.
It was not well received.
Not well received. Madagascar, which is really fun.
Madagascar is excellent. No notes.
If only for the penguins, but in general, it's a pretty fun concept for a movie.
I think... okay, let me come back to that. Keep going.
They did get involved with, like, Wallace and Gromit. They helped with Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Wallace and Gromit's great. And then, like, Over the Hedge, Flushed Away, B-Movie. Kung Fu Panda is a pretty big success, and I think there was one relatively recently. They keep going with more Shreks, more Madagascars. How to Train Your Dragon comes around that time. And then it's like a lot of IP. So then it's more Shreks, Puss in Boots, more Madagascars, more Kung Fu Pandas, the occasional, like, The Croods, or Mr. Peabody and Sherman, or Trolls. Like, they kind of Boss Baby. They get into some stuff that's more like, this will probably be a couple $100 million movie for kids that isn't great necessarily. So, like, How to Train Your Dragon is in a pretty short company of DreamWorks movies that are, as you mentioned, pretty universally acclaimed by critics and fans and kids and.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say about the Madagascar and this movie is that, and I think Shrek does it to an extent for sure as well. Any of the ones that are kind of, you think of a DreamWorks movie and you think of those, they managed to slide things that are funny to adults into it as well.
Yes.
It's a tightly written movie for the most part across the board in, like, all those ones that we've talked about. And they have things that are funny to adults that kids may or may not pick up on. Like in Madagascar, it's the New York Giants.
Yeah.
And I cackled the first time, and my little cousin, because at that point she was little, did not understand why I was laughing so hard, but, like, it's so well done.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that, things that are, like, sort of one-offs in this movie that are really funny.
Yeah.
And I have a list of lines that made me giggle, but yeah, I think that's probably why.
Yeah.
DreamWorks is not got the same cultural cachet that's
pedigree probably that
Pixar does, or
a lot
Disney
of,
or
there's the animators and all of the visuals, it's an incredibly talented world that is just you couldn't throw a rock without hitting 19 talented people in any of those animation studios.
Yeah,
even for movies that aren't very good.
Obviously incredibly talented.
Yeah. But Pixar is really rooted in guys like John Lasseter, who are storytellers and who came from a certain tradition. And DreamWorks, even though it was originally Steven Spielberg that was he founded the studio, he wasn't necessarily the one making the movies, right? And I think they probably have come and go a little bit on really fun stories versus more sort of general fodder for kids movie type of stuff.
This is a really tightly written movie.
It is. And it also, again, in going through that list, I was like, How to Train Your Dragon, I think in my head, and not having seen every single thing on there, but in my head I'm like, How to Train Your Dragon looks head and shoulders better than I think all of those in my head. It's definitely a better looking movie than any of the Shreks or the Madagascars that I've seen.
Yeah.
And part of that is maybe because of the setting, because you get more opportunity for it. Something I noted when we were going through the credits that I was like, oh, and I want to actually go and do a little bit more looking as to how involved he was with it. But there's a special thank you when they're going through the cinematography and some of the visual directors. There's a special thank you to Roger Deakins, who, legendary cinematographer for, not for animated movies, for live action stuff. He did some of the most famous Coen Brothers movies. He, for a long time, was probably the most talented cinematographer never to have won an Oscar before he won one 7 or 8 years ago. He does a podcast, a web series thing where he talks about shots that he's done and how he composed them, and he's now very forthright with his craft and how he does this. And I was like, oh, I bet that's probably why in my head I'm like, boy, this looks really good, because there's a lot of those shots that are these well composed shots.
They're beautifully done.
I was like, oh, okay. So my homework, my hiccup reading after this is I'm gonna go back and be like, Roger Deakins, tell me about how you were involved with this movie, because I was like, it stood out. Because again, not that any of those other movies look bad. Shrek's not a bad looking movie. Madagascar is not a bad looking movie, but they look like a lot of animated movies do. And this is oh yeah, cool, good stuff. And I also, before I turn it over to you, because I have only really one last thought for the movie. Speaking of the credits are really fun.
Yeah,
in this movie.
They are.
And it has nothing to do with anything being too out there or having extra scenes or things like some movies do, and those are really fun too. But they just included a lot of drawings, as if they were probably Hiccup's drawings of the various dragons. And now that you know that the dragons are friends, most of them are in kind of half derpy looking poses.
Yeah, they're quite funny.
It's pretty great. And all of the background of them, it looks like parchment paper, like what would have been written in Hiccup's journals that he was doing all the research in. And it actually kept that aesthetic up for the entire credit roll. You got up at the credits, and I actually was watching through the end, because I'm
yes.
Yeah. Did it keep the whole, because I'm
does.
This is cool. I'm I wonder if they just do that, and then when they start thanking everybody's, dogs at the end, if they just go back to regular black and white roll. But no, they kept it up for the whole thing. I'm that's a nice little touch with this. I quite like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a fun, just again, a little thing that you don't necessarily have to do. And I think, these days with movies, especially ones that are either animated movies or franchise movies, I think most times when you think credits, people will be like, oh, I'm going to stick around to see if there's something after the credit. Yeah. And I was just like, no, I kind of just want to watch this because it looks still kind of interesting visually. So, that's kind of the end of my notes. I imagine you have a few things.
I do have a couple. One of the things I said, like, this movie, the classic father-son conflict,
Mm-hmm.
and how the absolute toxic masculinity
Mm-hmm.
that runs through Stoic the Vast. And I think a lot of them, but particularly him, makes you a little bit, like, eye-twitchy. So I have a series of notes I've made here, right? But yeah, you've already mentioned that we finally have something to talk about.
Yeah, and the other thing we haven't mentioned either is that Mom isn't around, and we find out through their conversation that Hiccup's mom passed away at some point in time. We don't know how.
Yeah. But we know this because his dad gives him one of the hats with the helmets with the horns.
The Viking helmet, yeah.
And says, here, this will protect you when you're going to go kill the dragon. It's half of your mother's breastplate. I have the other half in mine. And you're like, cool. And at some point, Hiccup says, thanks for the breast hat.
Thanks for the breast helmet.
The breast helmet. And you're like, yeah, that's an excellent line.
Perfect.
But then when he comes back and Stoic's like returned and he's waiting for Hiccup's gonna do this thing and kill this dragon before, Stoic gets annoyed and fucks it all up anyway and then makes everybody angry. He has an entire fucking speech about how terrible his kid used to be.
Yeah. Remember when my kid was the worst?
Remember how 3 weeks ago when I left to sail the wild blue yonder, everybody hated Hiccup because he was terrible? Like, do you think maybe you're the reason he was terrible, bro?
It's a bit like watching a stand-up comic from an older era that all they did was talk about how much I hate my wife. Am I right, fellas?
Wives, hey? And then he has this whole thing where he says to Hiccup, because this thing happens and they capture Toothless and they're gonna go and he's decided this is what we're gonna do. And he says to him, something along the lines of, I can't believe you would do that. Everything in the ring was trickery. You're not my son. Mm-hmm. Get fucked. No. Like, I cannot abide. He also, so things that made me, like, angry in relation to that, because it's supposed to be, and this is 2010, 16 years ago, so a little more common at that point, too. Millennial dads have changed the narrative a lot, but it's this idea of, well, he's the dad and mom's not around to have the emotional conversation, so he doesn't know how to connect with his kid. Yeah. You're not my son. You're not exactly like me, therefore you're not mine. Yeah. And I know he's also just saying it in rage and that sort of thing, but never okay, get fucked.
If we can't talk about cars and football, I have nothing to talk
exactly.
to
Like, oh, what a toxic portrayal of a dad. Yeah. He also then proceeds to go on, and I have notes here that are like, dudes with no war plans are fucking morons. Not all men, but always dumbass men. We're seeing that in real time in the world right now.
Yeah, we don't even have to elaborate.
Nope, that's enough. Maybe you should have fucking listened to your kid now that Big Dragon's using the catapult as a toothpick. Yep. And there's no time like imminent death to remember to apologize, you absolute fucking moron. So, again, it has to be this like, oh, I almost lost the best thing that ever happened to me, which is such an old trope, and that I don't love. When I talk about the tight writing in this movie, there's a lot. That's maybe not one of them for me.
No, and there's a little bit of putting a bow on the plot.
And it's a trope and it's a stereotype, and again, in 2010 was a lot more used, I think, than it is now. So, I just wanted to, dive a little further into that. It's not just this, like, it's a classic father-son conflict but like, his dad fucking trash talks him. Yeah. To everybody. So
openly. On a microphone.
On whatever
on
that would
megaphone
be the equivalent of. That said.
And everybody else in town automatically knows what he's talking about. It's like, man, Hiccup used to be the worst.
Or like when he's asking for people to volunteer to go on this last, like before they capture the dragon, to go find the nest. And he says, whoever stays has to take care of Hiccup. Yeah. Is he Belle? Like, is the whole neighborhood singing a song about what a weirdo he is? Because
does that mean his dad is Gaston?
Fuck me. He's driving up the price of eggs by himself. Anyway, so there's that. There are some things, this movie is deeply funny. We already talked about Jay Baruchel and how good he is at that. Perfect. And while there are problematic men, not all men, but always shitty men, there are some problematic dudes who voice over in here, but TJ Miller has the right amount of like sardonic
Yeah.
delivery. Jonah Hill, very good at his delivery. There's a lot of very funny in this.
Yeah.
Christopher McLovin.
Mintz-Plasse, yeah.
So excellent.
Yeah, like even you in my head, even though I know his voice is different because when he was McLovin, he was still quite literally like 18 years old.
Or something, yeah.
And so his voice has deepened a little bit, but as soon as Fishlegs is going through the D&D character like
it's perfect.
points, it's like older McLovin.
But there are lines in this that I have to stop because I'm laughing so hard. And some of them are gobber.
Yeah.
So
God, fucking Craig Ferguson is.
It's so good. There's this one where he's like, I take him fishing because to tie into the dad thing, right?
Yeah.
Stoic says, well, I take him fishing, and he's out looking for trolls, and Gobber goes, the trolls are real. They steal socks, but only the left ones. And it's like, but why? And then also you're like, that is an experience that we've all had as humans where one of your socks goes missing. And then the other one that made me giggle is when Hiccup says, thanks for nothing, you useless reptile. And I've used that one in in common conversation before, so it makes me giggle because I'm like, I forgot how much I loved that.
Yeah.
Bringing that one back for 26.
And that one's tossed off to Toothless when he's like flying and getting this, and suddenly Toothless is plummeting. It's like, thanks.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's not getting mad at him. He's just like, oh, what else can go wrong?
Thanks a lot, you useless reptile. And my other favorite line of this whole thing is when the kids come flying in all together on their separate ones and they're gonna solve things. One, is it rough or tough? I can't remember. One of the twins, the male twin, when he's always like, I am very much injured. That is his go-to everywhere you hear him. But the other one, I think it's Fishlegs, when he comes in, he's like, well, losing power on the grunkle. And then he ends up, they land, and he goes, I'm okay. And then the dragon flips over and smushes him into the ground. He goes, less okay.
Yeah, less okay.
And it's just really funny. Like, there's, if for nothing else, if you are a person who appreciates that sort of dry, sardonic delivery and sense of humor, this movie is good for that. Even as an adult.
It honestly is in my head, I say this for about certain things, it is the Muppets school of comedy. Mm-hmm. It's the Jim Henson written, delivery of Frank Oz, Dave Gales, Jim Henson, all those people that were voicing all the Muppets, they could write a joke that everyone laughs at. If you're a kid and you don't get it, you laugh because it's delivered funny. And if you're an adult and you get it, it's funny just because it's a funny joke. It's not topical humor. It's not this. It's just no, that's just a funny thing to say. It's
just funny, and I really appreciate that about this movie, because I haven't gone back to this in a little bit, that it is still just funny.
Yeah, and it's also, it's just funny. It also, as you pointed out with the Oscar nominations, there's some parts of it that are, we talked about visually, the score sound in this, and I've discovered over a lot of years that when I've watched movies, if they have an orchestral score, it doesn't necessarily register with me all that often, which I think is the point in a lot of orchestral scores.
Because it's there, it's built in as part of it. Yeah.
It's not meant to be the main player. It's meant to set it.
Character of itself. Yeah.
And there's certain examples of that where, whether it's somebody like Hans Zimmer in Inception, people were like, oh, Inception, it was such a great score. And I watched Inception and I really enjoyed Inception, but score-wise, didn't register in my brain. There are some movies that have scores that are very unique, like a movie like Sideways, which is very much just oh, this is a real style choice for this. One of my all-time favorite movies is The Third Man, which is all the zither.
Gosh, I love that movie.
Yeah, and if it's something that it's really gonna stand out for whatever reason as an interesting choice that's not a backing orchestra, that tends to be the things that I'll notice, or just straight up needle drop moments, right? If it's a song or if it's something that's oh, we just watched Marty Supreme in the theater, and that was a score that Daniel O'Patten did that stood out because there was a lot of really interesting choices, and then also a lot of really kind of weird 80s new wave choices in the needle drops, even though the movie's set in the 50s. That's the stuff that when I watch a movie the first time, I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that sticks out in my head. I know my brother, we've mentioned my brother with this. My brother is on the other side of things. Like, he will watch a movie and be like, oh my God, that orchestral score was amazing. And I would need to go back to it to kind of register. And the John Powell score in this movie is, I mean, it was nominated for an Oscar and is, you know, is a very big deal even to this day. Like, there's people that are really big movie score heads that still talk about the How to Train Your Dragon score from 2010. And it's now, my brother owns it on vinyl. Like, we got it at a record store day one of the years.
Nerds.
It is one of those. And so even though it's not a thing that like is the thing that would stand out to me personally, I know what a big deal it is.
Yeah, it's an excellent score.
Yeah, it really is. So it was quite good. Like, I sort of knew, again, going into it, because it had stayed around for so long, that there was probably something to it, whether it was cute dragons or not, which it was that. But like, yeah, there's a lot of parts to it that could have been more of an afterthought or given less care. And they weren't. They were done really well.
Yeah, I think this is the kind of movie where it's clear they cared about every detail, which is, I think, what makes a good movie, especially in the terms of an animated movie.
Yeah.
Because you have fewer, you can do more in the sense of creating a world like this, right? Because it's yours to do with what you want. So I think it's safe to say, would you watch again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be one that I would go back to. I would go back to my shelf and find How to Train Your Dragon 1 on the spine number.
Before How to Train Your Dragon 2. Right.
Not sure if I'll ever own any of the other ones, but now I'll at least know that I'm watching number 1.
Also, perhaps important and sort of in a note, but if I remember correctly, and I think I do, this movie came out in 3D. Because that's around the time that 3D was all the thing.
It would make sense, yeah.
One thing I really appreciate about this movie, as a sidebar, because this is something we mentioned before, is that it doesn't feel like one of those movies that it takes you out of it.
Yeah.
When it's 3D. I had some of that with
Fury Road.
With Fury Road.
Yeah.
That it kind of took me out of the moment. You don't find that so much with this one.
No, and I think
that's probably the product being animated. But.
Yeah, and I think you don't, because especially with one like this or with a Pixar movie, they're already 3D animated movies.
Yeah.
So it's baked into what they're doing. So when you watch it in 3D, I have a very good memory of watching Up in theaters in 3D.
And sobbing.
With two of my closest male friends that I've ever had. And the three of us decided to watch a movie one day when we were all hanging out in Calgary. And we were like, there wasn't really much that we wanted to go see. And we're like, Up is playing. I've heard it's good. Pixar movies are fun. Sure. 3 dudes having emotional reactions in 3D glasses. But like, when you watched Up in 3D, there's nothing in there that was animated to be like, oh, and here's the part where it's coming straight at your face.
Yeah. No,
like,
I get it. And this doesn't have to be a deep discussion.
No.
Just one of those sidebars. But anyway,
yeah.
Glad that you would watch this again.
Yeah. It was quite good.
Yeah.
Give me Jay Baruchel in most animated movies with awkward teenagers.
Jay Baruchel's hilarious.
Good stuff.
And the other voice actors, also excellent.
Yeah.
I am a fan.
Really, really good. And just, listen, Craig Ferguson. Can we give the man a round of applause? Craig Ferguson needs to be in more things. He is very funny.
We could, but it's just 2 of us. It's not so much a round of applause as us just clapping into the microphone and some poor human listening to our podcast having to hear it.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair.
Well, that was How to Train Your Dragon.
That was How to Train Your Dragon. I guess that means that we get to swing back to my choice for the next episode. Before we introduce the next episode, I again just want to thank everybody for listening. 16 episodes deep, almost a full year. You guys are awesome. Thank you, all the friends that listen, all the new listeners that didn't know us before we started the podcast and now do. Thank you to all of you. We do have an Instagram that we post some reels and things as to when our episodes go live at I Can't Believe You Haven't Seen. I do also have a podcast about movies on physical media. Jess mentioned we had a physical media version of this movie.
We do of every movie we've done so far.
Every movie we've done. It's called Cinema on a Shelf, which is my own podcast if you're interested to listen to that. And I'm plugging all my own things, apparently.
What a fun game we're having.
I have a Letterboxd as well, which you can follow at Maddie236 if you're a Letterboxd user. Love to follow you back.
And if you're feeling wild and you want to branch out from movies and physical media, but you still want to talk about weird stuff, I also have a craft-specific Instagram at CraftyTurnip.
You do?
Where you can follow all of my adventures in trying not to hot glue my fingers together.
Mm-hmm. And of not crocheting toothless amigurumis.
Yeah, I don't do amigurumis, but I do crochet all sorts of other things and varying crafts, so feel free to follow my adventures there as well.
There you go. So you can join us on the next episode in 3 weeks' time when it goes back to my choice. And we're going back to something a little bit older, but still something that feels a little more modern than the time it's coming out. This is the 1969 movie.
Nice.
A Western, although it's not like your classical Western, starring two legendarily handsome leading men.
Well, I'm in.
Robert Redford and Paul Newman in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Can't wait.
I haven't seen it in a bit. I'm really looking forward to watching it again.
All right. Well, we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.